My fiancé and I plan to get married after the Chinese New Year. On New Year's Eve, I finished my work ahead of schedule and went to find him, but only to see him having dinner with a strange woman. He was also holding the girl at the same table and teasing her with a gentle look on his face. I originally wanted to approach quietly without showing any sign, but the girl suddenly said something that made me dumbfounded. After knowing that Li Feng was divorced and had a child, I broke up with him. As a result, the next day, my father came to me to scold me. Because I was already engaged to Li Feng. I should go back and explain clearly to my family in person, ask them to take back the wedding invitations and inform the relatives and friends who have already received the invitations. It happened to be Sunday, so I went back. My father, my stepmother and my stepmother's son were all at home. During dinner, I directly told my father I saw him accompany his daughter to the amusement park yesterday. My father didn't say anything, and then my stepmother said, "Mao Mao, did you misunderstand? Maybe it was his niece or something." My relationship with my stepmother is okay, not to the point where stepmothers and other families abuse their stepdaughters. Of course, mainly she can't abuse me either. My mother passed away due to illness when I was 15. They got married after I went to college. When they got married, I didn't have any mental obstacles. At my father's request, I called her mom. Although also in Yunqing, except for winter and summer vacations, I rarely go home. She brought her 4-year-old son into my family when she got married. Although this younger brother of mine has no blood relationship, when I go home, I will also buy him some small toys, and on his birthday, I will also give him some small gifts. And on my birthday, my stepmother will also give me gifts and send me red envelopes. Although the gifts are not expensive and the red envelopes are at most 200 yuan, the thought counts. All in all, just muddle along. Life is not a melodramatic drama. It can't be chaotic every day. So, when my stepmother asked me this, I didn't think there was anything wrong. I told her what I saw yesterday again. Yesterday, Li Feng asked me if I wanted to have dinner, watch a movie and go on a date together. But I was busy yesterday. A client of mine made a temporary appointment to talk. After talking with the client, it was still early, and it happened to be near Li Feng's house. So I thought of going to meet Li Feng. On the way there, I passed an amusement park. At the entrance of the amusement park, Li Feng was holding his daughter with a very kind smile on his face. His daughter kissed him on the face and asked, "Dad, I also want to come and play tomorrow. Can you accompany me?" Li Feng said, "No, Dad has something to do tomorrow." Yes, because I had an appointment with the client, so Li Feng and I made an appointment for Sunday. I was stunned on the spot for at least 3 minutes. 3 minutes later, a woman also came out of the amusement park, took her daughter from him and said, "I'll take Lele away. When you are free, come to see her by yourself, but you should never think of taking your daughter away from me. Just transfer the living expenses to my card on time." I used up all my self-cultivation in this life to refrain from slapping him in the face. Instead, I took a picture of this scene, sent it to his WeChat, broke up with him and blocked him. As an adult, there is no need to lose my image for such a scumbag and make a big fuss. After my stepmother heard what I said, she looked very embarrassed. "But, Mao Mao, you are already engaged. All the relatives now know about your marriage. It's hard to face if you break off the engagement at this time." Me? Is it a matter of face at this time? For the first time, I looked at my stepmother with a scrutinizing look. Well, after all, she is not your own daughter? Perhaps my look was too sharp, and she was stunned for a moment. Then she changed to a regretful expression and hurriedly changed her words, "I mean, you are 30 years old this year. If you break off the engagement, can you find someone more to your liking? After all, he hasn't committed any principle-based problems. It's not cheating or having an affair or something, and he is already divorced. As you heard, his daughter is not with him either. Me? I looked at my father, and my father was still silent. I suddenly realized something. The reason why my father was silent was that he had already discussed it with my stepmother last night. Let my stepmother persuade me not to break off the engagement. Over the years, being polished in the workplace has taught me to figure out the other party's intentions before taking action. I put away my sharp look and changed to a look of unwillingness and said, "Then he has gone too far. It's not that I can't accept a divorced man with a child. I just can't accept his lying to me." A hint of joy flashed across my stepmother's face. "He may just be afraid that you can't accept it, so he deceived you out of kindness." In my heart, I sneered. What a kind deception. I said, "This matter can be concealed for a while, but not forever." Didn't he ever think that I would find out one day? My stepmother said a lot more. There was only one central idea, that is, not to break off the engagement. She even brought up the case that she and my father had reformed a family and were very happy now. She also said, "This man has been divorced and has experienced a failed marriage, so he will understand the difficulty of marriage better. Look at your father. He is so good to me now." Bah, it's because my mother passed away. Moreover, is it really that easy? It's just that I don't want to embarrass my father and never care about anything. I'm also too lazy to mention the matter that my father is using money to raise someone else's son. 2. Seeing that my attitude had softened a lot, my stepmother began to play the emotional card with me. Li Feng is really a nice person. When you first met, didn't he save you? When two hooligans were robbing, he helped drive the hooligans away. Should I accept his deception just because of this? My acquaintance with Li Feng did indeed originate from a heroic rescue. During the Chinese New Year last year, I was so hounded by my family to get married that I was almost bald. My father, my grandfather, and my grandmother took turns to persuade me. My stepmother was smart and basically never joined the army of urging marriage to increase family conflicts. But my grandparents' old-fashioned ideas were terrible. Mao, your grandparents don't ask for anything else in this life. We just want to see you get married and have children before we die. When these two 70-something-year-old old people tried to morally kidnap me, I didn't dare to refuse. However, I didn't want to compromise either. So, after perfunctorily dealing with the two of them, I went out alone, wanting to get some fresh air. At that time, it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening. I walked aimlessly out of the community, thinking about life by the way, and reflecting on why I hadn't married myself out at the age of 30 yet. And by the way, thinking about whether it was necessary to get married at the age of 30? Was it wrong to pursue my career? There was a river in front of my community. I used to like walking along this riverbank. There had never been any security problems before, but that night, there was a problem. Two young men in society who looked unfriendly had been eyeing me for some time. By the time I noticed them, they were already walking quickly towards me. It seemed that they wanted to rob my bag. And at that time, there was no one on the riverbank. Just as I was worried, Li Feng appeared jogging at night from the other end of the riverbank. When those two young men in society were about to attack me, he shouted loudly, "What are you doing?" Seeing someone coming, those two young men in society ran away quickly. I said thank you to him. He waved his hand. "You're welcome. It's so late. Go home quickly. Now the Chinese New Year is coming soon, and those robbers with evil intentions want to earn some money for the new year." He helped people without expecting anything in return. When I proposed to add WeChat and invite him to dinner next time, he refused, saying directly that it was just a little effort and there was no need for that. Then he continued his night run. I couldn't help sighing that there were still many good people in society. I saw Li Feng again on the 5th day of the Chinese New Year. My grandparents and father started a new round of operations that made me crazy again. My grandparents directly threw their medical records in front of me. Mao Mao, do you want to make your grandparents die with regret? I had no choice but to compromise. I agreed to take a look at the blind date they arranged. Then, I saw Li Feng again. He was actually my blind date. The good first impression combined with such a wonderful fate made all the perfunctory words I had originally thought of swallowed back. He was a very humorous person. When he saw me at first sight, he also recognized me, and then, with a helpless look, he said, "It seems that you, like me, were forced by your family to come out for a blind date." We two talked like friends for an entire afternoon. We had a great time talking. He also happened to be developing in Yinqing. So, we exchanged contact information. He was not very handsome, but, in the eyes of parents, he was a rare good son-in-law. He had a successful career, and his parents were both well-known university teachers. He was also mature. Like me, he was exactly 30 years old this year. So, when he came to pick me up after work at the entrance of my company for the 3rd time and said that he liked me, I agreed to be with him. Then, my family frantically urged us to get engaged. I thought he was a nice person and was especially kind to me. Although he was not handsome, he had a gentle and refined temperament. He never forced me to do anything and always had a humble and polite appearance. We had been together for half a year and were still only at the stage of holding hands, hugging, and kissing. How innocent. So, we got engaged. My stepmother was still saying, "Haven't you always said that you wanted to find a boyfriend who was like a hero and also considerate? Doesn't he just meet all the requirements?" If my stepmother had only mentioned our previous encounter, I wouldn't have felt uncomfortable. But when she said these later words, I couldn't help but suspect whether Li Feng's previous gentle and refined persona was just an act in front of me. But I didn't argue too much with my stepmother about this issue. After dinner, I called my father out alone for a walk. After going out, I looked at my father and asked, "Dad, is Li Feng really the son of your friend?" My father's eyes flickered for a moment. "Yes." I pressed on. "He is your friend's son. Don't you know that he is divorced and has a child? Who on earth introduced him to me?" My father was silent for a long time. I took a deep breath, remembering the words my stepmother had used to persuade me today. It was Mom who introduced him to me, right? Only then did my father uncomfortably admit it. "Your mother was also worried about you and had your best interests at heart. You are already 30 years old, and she didn't dare to push you." So, I interrupted him. "So, introducing such a person to me, she really lives up to my calling her mom." "Mao Mao, your mother didn't know before. Even if she didn't know, she shouldn't have persuaded me like this. If this were my real mother, she would have gone to tear that bastard Li Feng apart by now, instead of persuading me to make do and continue to marry him. Persuading you was my idea. Now all the relatives know that you are going to get married. If you say you won't get married at this time, where will I put my old face? You are 30 years old and not married yet. The relatives all say that I have raised a daughter that no one wants. They also say behind my back that because your mother died early, I don't care about you." My father said, "Besides, your grandparents are old. If they know that you are causing such a mess, they will also feel bad. I don't even dare to tell your grandparents now. I said, I will go to the village myself next month to tell my grandparents. I am determined to break off this engagement. 3. I think that things have come to this point. There is no more room for further discussion. So I went back to my own home. But Li Feng was actually downstairs in my home. It was late at night and he was the only one downstairs. It seemed that he was on the phone with someone. I didn't want to get entangled with him. Just as I was about to take a detour, I heard him ask, "Have you found out clearly about Mao Mao's attitude?" She said it was just because she couldn't forgive me for this one thing of hiding the truth, right? On the other end of the phone, I didn't know what was said. After a while, Li Feng said, "I will definitely apologize sincerely." Then, he hung up the phone. But even by using my toes to guess, I knew that Li Feng was on the phone with my family member. When I went home today, it was exactly this topic that I had talked about with my family. It seemed that although I told my father that I must break off the engagement, the family still didn't agree. I didn't go home directly but went to my best friend's house and stayed for one night. I hadn't investigated Li Feng before, but I thought that I had to do it now. Otherwise, this person surely wouldn't let me break up amicably but would come to pester me. So, I asked someone to help me investigate. 3 days later, I got the answer. Li Feng was divorced because of domestic violence. Damn it. Another weekend. My father called me again and asked me to go home. He said that we would discuss it again. Just as well, I also wanted to throw the reason for Li Feng's divorce in front of my father. As soon as I got home, I found that my grandparents had also been picked up from the countryside by him. Was he trying to use my grandparents to pressure me? My stepmother was cooking, and I went to chat with my grandparents. This week, I was also thinking about how to tell my grandparents that I wanted to break off the engagement so that the two old people wouldn't take out their medical records. Before I started, Li Feng also arrived. My father opened the door for him. Probably because I had refused to see him this week, so he came to my home. All right, let's talk clearly face to face in public and stop getting entangled. But when he came, he didn't come to discuss the cancellation of the wedding but to show his filial piety. He, as if nothing had happened, carried big and small bags of gifts and said they were health products bought for my grandparents. My grandparents didn't know that we had broken up yet and praised him for being filial at once, telling him not to be so extravagant. I frowned and was about to talk about our matter when Li Feng sat beside me, pulled my sleeve a little, and said in a low voice, "Mao Mao, let's talk about our matter privately later. Grandparents are not in good health. You don't want to make them angry either, right?" I don't know where he got the nerve to say such morally blackmailing words. I moved away from him in disgust. Just then, my stepmother had finished cooking. Negotiating at the dinner table. This was very traditional. I sat between my grandparents. I picked up some food with chopsticks for each of the two old people and asked, "Grandpa and Grandma, you hope that I get married because you hope that I will be happy and have someone to rely on in old age, not because you hope that I will be bullied after getting married, right?" When my grandpa was young, he was a soldier. Immediately, he replied, "Of course. In the future, if Xiaofeng dares to bully you, I will hit him with my walking stick." I took a look at Li Feng's expression. His face changed slightly and at the same time, he looked at my stepmother a little uneasily. Oh ho! It seemed that the idea of bringing my grandparents over for the negotiation today was my stepmother's. When I was a child, my parents were busy, and I was brought up by my grandparents. She knew very well that I cared a great deal about these two old people and wouldn't dare to make them angry easily. All right, my stepmother. We had lived in peace for more than 10 years, and finally, she was tired of this and wanted to try some chaos. I said, "Grandpa and Grandma, I was blind and misjudged the person. I invited you over today also to tell you that the wedding 2 months later is cancelled. Li Feng and I are not suitable for each other." My grandparents were stunned. While they were in a daze, my stepmother immediately smoothed things over. "Mao Mao, how can you play such a joke on your grandparents? You know that your grandparents are in poor health. They can't bear such a joke." Li Feng immediately joined the moral kidnapping group as well. "Mao Mao, what did I do wrong? Let's have a good talk. If I'm wrong, I can apologize. But the wedding invitations have all been sent out. If you cancel the wedding at this time, neither of our families will be able to save face." I took a look at my father. Only he kept his eyes fixed on my grandparents all the time, fearing that my grandparents couldn't bear it. I just said directly, "Li Feng lied to me. He has been divorced and has a 5-year-old daughter. His last marriage failed because he was domestically violent." My father wanted to say something, but finally swallowed it back. The meal ended unpleasantly. Although my grandparents were not so angry as to be hospitalized, they were also so angry that they kept clutching their chests. After Li Feng left, I managed to stabilize my grandparents' emotions with great difficulty. My stepmother still wanted to add fuel to the fire. "Dad, Mom, don't be angry. We will persuade Mao Mao well again. She is already 30 years old. She is not young anymore and should be sensible." I really couldn't bear her anymore. Since she married my father, I yelled at her for the first time. "Shut up. You're never ending. Do you not want to live this life anymore?" 4. The next day. My grandparents went back to the village. Although they wanted to see me get married in their lifetime, given my attitude, they didn't force me anymore. Before my grandmother went back to the village, she looked at me with tear-filled eyes. In the end, I went to cancel the wedding myself. I also informed all my relatives and friends myself. Because I had to cancel the wedding arrangements and greet my relatives, I didn't go home for 2 consecutive weekends. I don't know what my stepmother said to my father. My father always looked gloomy when he looked at me. For a few moments, I really wanted to make a big fuss at home and let my stepmother get out of my house. But then I thought, I had just cancelled the wedding. If I made the family a mess again, when the relatives talked about it, it would indeed be unpleasant. So I gave up the idea. But I didn't expect that Li Feng's face was as thick as the city wall. The wedding had been cancelled and all the gifts had been returned. Li Feng still had the nerve to pester me. For several consecutive days, he waited for me downstairs and nagged me like chanting the incantation of the golden hoop. "Mao Mao, it was my fault to hide it from you. My daughter doesn't live with me. Now I'm no different from someone who has never been married. The domestic violence was just a rumor. We divorced only because of personality differences. I haven't told my relatives and friends here that we cancelled the wedding. Our wedding 1 month later can still be held as usual. Let me court you again, okay?" I was usually too lazy to pay attention to him and just walked away. If he dared to follow me, I would directly take out my mobile phone. "If you dare to follow me 1 step, I will call the police. This is a society ruled by law. Don't forget that." After pestering me like this for several days, one night, I worked overtime very late with a new colleague, Lin Changga. Lin Changga was a young man who had just entered the society not long ago. He was only 23 years old. He was very enthusiastic. After working overtime, he insisted on seeing me home. Of course, he might also just simply want to please his senior at work. I didn't refuse either. When we got back to my building, Li Feng was waiting downstairs again. Seeing me appear with Lin Changge, he, who had been relatively calm in the past few days, suddenly became agitated. He looked indignant. Mao Mao, who is he? I, ? I was full of question marks. Does it have anything to do with you? He looked at Lin Changge. Lin Changge was young, and now he was dressed in casual clothes and looked like a boy next door. He took a few glances and suddenly said, Mao Mao, you can't find such a young boy to pretend to be your boyfriend just to annoy me. Is this boy even an adult? How could Grandpa and Grandma possibly agree to you being with such a young kid? If you take him home, Grandpa and Grandma will be even more angry. I think I must have been overly stimulated by his words. I looked at him expressionlessly and said, at least this boy has never been married, has no children, and doesn't have a history of domestic violence. Most people in the company knew about my broken-off engagement, and some colleagues had even attended my engagement banquet. Lin Changge should have also heard about it. He guessed Li Feng's identity. So, he didn't expose me. Li Feng was choked for a moment. He repeated again, Mao Mao, my divorce with her was really just because of personality differences. I wasn't in the mood to argue with him about these issues. I said, we have no relation at all. Please don't appear in my life anymore in the future. After saying that, I left. Lin Changge was probably afraid that Li Feng would continue to pester me, so he followed me into the community. Before leaving, I saw a glint of gloom in Li Feng's eyes. He shouted behind me, don't you look at your age? You're 30 this year. Is he even an adult? How much youth do you still have to waste on him? Really, there are always some people who make you want to curse out loud at countless moments. I turned around and looked at him. Even if I can't get married all my life, I will never marry someone like you. Don't disgust me anymore. But today Li Feng seemed determined to disgust me to the end. He didn't curse back at me but started to taunt Lin Changge instead. He looked at Lin Changge and said, you're so young. You've just started working, right? Your monthly salary isn't even enough to buy her a set of cosmetics or a bottle of perfume. What makes you think you can compete with me? Damn it. He actually involved an innocent person. So, the gentle and refined image when he was with me before was really just an act. I was about to slap Li Feng in the face when Lin Changge looked at him and said calmly, by having a big tool, being good in bed, being sincere, and also being more handsome than you. A critical hit, definitely a critical hit. I saw Li Feng's face turn green directly. He couldn't say a word for a long time. 5. I treated Lin Changge to a big meal. It was so damn satisfying to counter him like that. Of course, mainly because I took advantage of him that night. So, it could also be regarded as a reward. After being critically hit by Lin Changge once, Li Feng finally stopped waiting for me downstairs. 2 words, comfortable. However, I had only been comfortable for half a month before troublesome things happened again. I received the news that my grandma was in the hospital. Although my grandparents were over 70, they were actually quite healthy. They often had minor illnesses and pains, but they had never been hospitalized. I rushed to the hospital hurriedly. I asked about the situation. It was high blood pressure-induced dizziness. It was not a big deal. But the doctor said that she had to be hospitalized for at least a week. In the ward, there were a bunch of people around. My father, my stepmother, my grandpa, and my second uncle and second aunt who took care of my grandparents in the village were all there. It was the busy farming season at present. My second uncle and second aunt said that they had things to do at home and asked me tactfully if I could take turns with my father to take care of my grandparents. My stepmother's son had started school. She had to take care of her son and also go to work, so she left not long after. Before leaving, my second aunt specifically pulled me aside and said a few words. Mau Mau, second aunt doesn't mean to scold you, but you really didn't handle the broken-off engagement well. If you wanted to break off the engagement, that's fine. But why did you deliberately find an underage person to annoy Li Feng? I asked, did Li Feng say so? Auntie, my second aunt, said, it was your stepmother who said that you should quickly break up with your underage boyfriend. What a disgrace! Your stepmother is worried about you, but she doesn't want to scold you directly. As for the Li family, if you can continue the relationship, in Auntie's opinion, it's also not bad. Anyway, it's more reliable than your underage boyfriend. Now, what are the relatives all talking about? They say that you don't even look at yourself. At your age, you are still fooling around. Auntie paused for a moment before she continued, your grandma was so angry about this matter that she was hospitalized. Your grandpa is also feeling sad now. Later, you should have a good talk with your grandpa. They all left, and only my grandparents were in the ward. My grandpa glared at me with a cold face. Grandpa. Ning Mau Mau, are you going to make your grandparents furious to death? My grandpa brought me up all by himself. After all, he loved me. After scolding me for a while, his anger disappeared. By beating around the bush, I finally figured out the whole process of the matter. During this period of time, the relatives in the village had been gossiping about me. Today, a relative, whether deliberately or unintentionally, told my grandparents in front of them that I was not self-respecting and had messy relationships with men. He also told lies, saying that it was because I cheated on my partner that I broke off the engagement with Li Feng. My stepmother also went back to the village a few days ago. Ostensibly, she went to visit my grandparents, but actually she wanted my grandparents to persuade me not to break off the engagement. She said that otherwise, these rumors would become more and more outrageous as time passed, which was bad for my reputation and would make it even more difficult for me to get married in the future. My grandpa said, that boy from the Li family is really not someone you should marry. He deceives and has domestic violence. Grandpa agrees to break off this engagement. But the boyfriend you are dating now is really not acceptable either. I said, he is not my boyfriend. He is just my colleague. 6. The next day. I went back home. I was going to have a good talk with my stepmother. If she didn't want to live in harmony, we could just stop. It was okay for others to gossip, but she still had to add to the chaos. When I got home, my father hadn't come back from work yet. My stepmother was cooking for my younger brother, and my younger brother was doing his homework in the living room. My stepmother stuck her head out of the kitchen and said, Mau Mau, you are back. What do you want to eat? I said, anything will do. Yes, over the years, she also had some credit for a relatively good relationship. She would pay attention to my preferences. When cooking or buying things, she would also care about my opinions. After asking me, she withdrew her head. Just then, I saw her mobile phone on the coffee table light up. I had good eyesight. It was a WeChat message, and the name on WeChat was Li Feng. My heart skipped a beat. I had never peeked at her mobile phone messages before, but I knew the unlock password of her mobile phone. Previously, when she was busy cooking and my brother's teacher sent a message, she would also ask me to help her see what the teacher said by the way. I looked at the kitchen and then at my brother. Nobody was watching me. I quickly took her mobile phone, went back to my room, closed the door, and opened WeChat. The WeChat message sent by Li Feng said, Auntie, how is Grandma? Is she all right? It was quite normal. I scrolled up. But the more I scrolled up, the colder my heart became. Li Feng had been in contact with my stepmother all the time. When I had scrolled through all of their chat records, I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cellar. My acquaintance with Li Feng and our engagement had all been arranged by my stepmother from the very beginning. And the so-called hero saving the beauty incident was actually a plan. I hadn't thought deeply about it before, but now that I thought about it, Li Feng's home was really not close to mine. There were 3 subway stations between us. Did he happen to run to my doorstep while jogging at night? My stepmother also told Li Feng that after the hero saving the beauty incident, he must not add my WeChat, so as to first leave me a good impression of being a good person who didn't seek rewards. Li Feng's gentleness was also a false appearance tailored for me. My stepmother, who has been with me for more than 10 years, still knows me quite well. She told Li Feng all about my likes and situations. She let Li Feng pretend to be a person according to my preferences. The reason why she introduced Li Feng to me was that Li Feng's parents were teachers at Yunqing No. 1 Middle School. Yunqing No. 1 Middle School is notoriously difficult to enter in Yunqing. Either you are extremely excellent in study, or you have to spend a large amount of money. It's very difficult to get in without spending more than 6 figures. The last way is through connections. My younger brother's grades are not good. As for spending money, my father would never be crazy enough to spend 6 figures on a high school. And my stepmother doesn't have that much money herself either. So, my stepmother set her mind on making use of connections. Coincidentally, Li Feng's parents were worried about their son's marriage. Li Feng also had high standards. Although he was divorced himself, he looked down on divorced women. My stepmother sent him my photo, and he liked it. What made me even more furious was a passage from my stepmother in the message. Li Feng asked her if I would divorce again in the future when I knew that he was divorced and had a child. My stepmother replied, "The marriage has already taken place. She can only accept it." Her grandparents attach great importance to family traditions and would never agree to her divorce. Moreover, after you get married, have a baby first. Once she has a child, she will be tied down by the child. Women, for the sake of their children, can endure anything. But you must not be domestically violent to her again. She has a strong temper. My father still said that she didn't know. She knew everything. She even knew that Li Feng had a history of domestic violence. Damn her! When I broke off my engagement with Li Feng, my grandparents didn't stop me. In order to help Li Feng continue to pursue me and knowing that I had an unpleasant encounter with Li Feng last time, my stepmother deliberately put pressure on my grandparents. She slandered my reputation. She made my grandma so angry that she was hospitalized, hoping that I would compromise. She hoped that my grandparents would also persuade me to continue the marriage with Li Feng. I was so angry that I trembled all over. I took a picture of the message and sent it to my father. I asked, "Is this what you call for my own good? Giving your stepdaughter as a favor to such a scumbag, and even calculating my grandparents?" I walked out of the room, pushed her mobile phone with the message in front of her and said, "Don't you want to explain?" First, her face turned pale. Then, she snatched the mobile phone and shouted harshly, "You don't respect me. How dare you look through my mobile phone?" I slapped her in the face and said, "Is a person like you worthy of my respect?" Just at this time, there was the sound of a key turning at the door. My father was back. My stepmother probably used up all her wits in this life. She immediately threw the mobile phone that she had just snatched back onto the floor with great force. The mobile phone was directly broken. Then, she began to cry. As soon as my father entered the door, he saw the 5-finger mark on her face, the mobile phone on the floor, and the angry me. My father looked at the situation between us. He pulled me away and scolded, "Ning Mao Mao, do you want to go to heaven? How dare you lay hands on an elder? An elder? Is she worthy of being my elder?" I said, "Ask her if she had something to do with Grandma's hospitalization." My stepmother immediately grabbed my father's sleeve and said, "Ning Yu, forget it. Mao Mao is just worried because Mom is hospitalized." My father was even more angry. He said, "Ning Mao Mao, do you not know why your grandma is hospitalized in your heart? Isn't it because you broke off your engagement and made the two old people lose all their face? Your grandma was so angry in her heart that she was hospitalized because of anger. Instead of looking for your own reasons, why are you going crazy at home?" I looked at my father's face and suddenly felt extremely strange. I sent the message to him, but he still stood on my stepmother's side. "Your mother was so worried about you that she couldn't sleep all night. She was afraid that if you broke off this engagement, you would never get married in the future. And now you're still blaming all these things on your mother. Have you no conscience? You're 30 years old. Do you think you're still young?" My father still said, "In my opinion, the engagement with the Li family really can't be broken off. You'd better get married. Although Li Feng has been divorced and has a child, his character is fine. For more than half a year, the elders have all seen it, and his family's condition is also okay." I saw the corners of my stepmother's mouth turn up a little. She said, "Ning Yu, don't make things difficult for Mao Mao." She really had my father's character well in hand. When my father was angry, he liked to say some harsh words and was also very concerned about his face. Sure enough, my father said, "What do you mean by making things difficult or not? In the past, children's marriages were still decided by their parents. Does she think she can defy the heavens? I'll go and tell her grandparents." I looked at my father, and suddenly my heart sank. "Dad, the Qing dynasty has long been over." Then I left home. Fine, very fine, extremely fine. This stepmother of mine. Does she think that only she can play on my father's character? She took my previous kindness and non-calculation as being easy to bully, right? I'll let her know how to write the word regret. 7. After my grandma was discharged from the hospital, I brought my grandparents to the community where I lived. I didn't let them go back to the village. After getting the two elders settled, I went to Li Feng's home in person and also made an appointment with his parents. Li Feng probably thought that I was going to talk to him about getting remarried, and he was all smiles. Haha, so naive. I'm here to teach him how to be a man. It's just moral blackmail. I can do it. It's just threatening people. I can also do it. It's just using the elders to intimidate. I can still do it. Since they have no shame, why should I care about my face? I came straight to the point and asked directly, "During the blind date at the beginning, it was your family who concealed Li Feng's marriage history, right? The responsibility for this matter lies with you, not with me, right?" His parents looked at each other in dismay. His father asked, "Mao Mao, it was indeed our family's fault for this matter, but Ah Feng really likes you a great deal." Like your ass. If he liked me, he would have joined my stepmother in spreading rumors everywhere, which made my grandma so angry that she was hospitalized. I was too lazy to play the role of a good person anymore. I said, "Li Feng deliberately told everyone everywhere that I was cheating, so that's why the engagement with your family was broken off. Now the relatives on my side are gossiping about me every day behind my back, which has made my grandma so angry that she was hospitalized. I hope he can apologize to me for this matter today. At the same time, I hope that from today on, he will no longer appear in my life. Otherwise, we'll just do it as if we've torn our faces apart. Every time he appears in front of me again and says one bad word about me, I will take a loudspeaker to the schools of you two elders and make the reason for our broken-off engagement crystal clear, so that the students in the two elders' schools will all know what kind of person their son really is. You don't want to be pointed at and gossiped about when you're about to retire, do you? Li Feng's parents were both prominent figures. I didn't believe that they wouldn't care. Sure enough. After I finished speaking, the two elders looked at each other in dismay again. Finally, his mother slapped him in the face and said, "Bastard, still not apologize." Li Feng apologized to me reluctantly. When I was about to leave, he saw me to the door and said, "Ning Mao Mao, I didn't expect you to be such a person. When you were with me before, your image of a lady was all fake. You are this shrew." I looked at him and sneered, "Whether I'm a lady or not depends on whether the other person is a human being, not a scumbag." 8. After dealing with Li Feng, it was time for my stepmother. Doesn't she think that a remarried family with children is easy to get by? Humph. I'll let her know what chaos is. I'll let her know what a malicious stepdaughter is like. I'll let her know what will happen when kindness is regarded as weakness. I hired a man about her age and let him pretend to be a teacher in Yincheng No. 1 middle school to flirt with her. As a stepmother, I may not be good at other things, but I'm quite capable in terms of socializing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to incite a bunch of relatives in the village to gossip about me behind my back and deliberately spread the gossip in front of my grandparents. And my stepmother is now trying to send her son to Yincheng No. 1 middle school for high school. The two of them had a great chat. Then, while the man was chatting with my stepmother, I let the man deliberately do some ambiguous actions. For example, subconsciously tucking the long hair that had fallen on her forehead behind her ear for my stepmother. For example, deliberately coming forward to show his attentiveness after my stepmother carried something heavy. Although my stepmother has a bad heart, she is sincere to my father. The man flirted with her for half a month, but she wasn't tempted at all. But it doesn't matter. I took some ambiguous photos of her and that man. Then, I created a new WeChat account and applied to join the large family chat group where the relatives chat together. One late night, I sent all these photos into the group. The next day, I pretended that I had just seen them and, in the midst of the relatives' noisy accusations, angrily followed the trend and sent a message, "Mom, are you worthy of my father by doing this? Over the years, my father has raised your son as his own, yet you are secretly with someone else behind my father's back." This matter fermented for half a day. All the relatives pointed fingers at her. She kept shouting in the group that she was wronged, saying that the man was just a teacher in Yincheng No. 1 middle school and that her son was about to go to high school and she was just asking the teacher about the situation. In the afternoon, after the accusations had subsided a little, I threw all the chat records between her and Li Feng that I had taken from her mobile phone into the group. And I said in the group, "Just for your son to be able to go to Yincheng No. 1 middle school, are you going to give your stepdaughter away as a favor? And you are also plotting against grandparents. Well, since the stepdaughter is not your own daughter, you don't care, and since grandparents are not your own parents, it doesn't matter if they are so angry that they are hospitalized, right?" After the relatives read the chat messages I sent, they became excited again. Especially my second uncle and second aunt. They cursed right on the spot in the group. After cursing, my second uncle at my father, "Ning Yu, do you know about these things? Have you lost your conscience? Letting your own daughter and parents be bullied by an outsider like this." My second aunt said, "What? Do you really expect the son of an outsider to support you in your old age? The group was in an uproar for an hour. All were scolding my stepmother. An hour later, my stepmother called me. I didn't answer and directly blocked her. When I gave you face, you didn't want it. Now it's too late to come to me for face. 9. Half a month later. As soon as I got home from work, I saw my stepmother was also in my house. I could hear her sobbing from a distance. Dad, Mom, please help me persuade Ningyu. He wants to divorce me. We've been married for so many years, an old couple. He's in his 50s. It's so embarrassing to get divorced at this time. My father wants to divorce her? Sure enough. My father is very concerned about his reputation, and she was just taking advantage of this to urge my father to prevent me from breaking off my engagement. My father even thought it was a loss of face for me to break off my engagement and was dejected. How could one tolerate that his own wife has an affair outside? And how could he allow all his relatives to point fingers at him, saying that he is unfilial and heartless, and let an outsider take advantage of his parents? My grandfather took a look at his daughter-in-law kneeling in front of him and said, "It's just right to get divorced. After getting divorced, you can merrily phone yourself, and the problem of your son's high school education can just be solved." My granddaughter, whom I have brought up by myself, even if she is 40 years old and unmarried, it's not your turn to use her as a favor. I smiled at the stepmother with a villain-like expression. "Auntie, please leave my house and never show up in my house again." She turned to beg me, "Mao Mao, it's Mom who is sorry for you. Mom will never do such a stupid thing again. Will you help Mom plead with Dad, okay?" Bah. Impossible. I sent her out the door. I asked her, is a family with children after going through a marriage happier? Is the husband more affectionate? Suddenly, her face turned ashen, and she broke into uncontrollable sobs. Later, she took her son and tirelessly begged my father not to divorce, explaining that she had not cheated. But it was all too late. Selling her daughter for glory had made her image plummet. Her former gentleness and calmness now seemed hypocritical and insidious to the relatives. Soon, Dad moved out to live separately from her and prepared to file for divorce. Many years later, when I saw her again, the calmness and elegance of the once social butterfly were gone, replaced by worry and aging.